And all right, so I have pushed the go live button. I'm just gonna put this in the webinar app and hit go live there. So we should be live. So please refresh the page. We should be live. So please refresh your page. Now, everyone, could you just do me a quick favor? Can you let me know in the chat when you can see me and hear me? So could you just let me know in the chat when you can see me and hear me? So the reason I ask this is, actually I've had this experience before. I thought I was like live to everyone, and I gave like almost the first 10 minutes of a webinar, and it didn't work. Like no one was actually watching it, but it looks like Kelly, Aaron, Roger, Antoine, and everyone else can see and hear. So great. Now that I know you can see and hear, I would love to introduce, first of all, I'd like to say thank you for joining us, but I'd also like to introduce our speaker today. Ron, you want to tell the world a little bit about you?
Yeah, so thank you everybody for coming in. I'm a designer. I've been a designer for the last 18 years. And yeah, we're here today to talk about Webflow, which is something that I'm super, super passionate about. Had dramatic impact on my career. And yeah, I'd love to share some of that stuff with you today.
Fantastic. And while we wait for just the last minute people to join us, can you let us know in the chat where in the world are you joining us from? Some people were doing this already, and I saw people from Monterrey, Mexico, Turkey, Indonesia, India, outside Boston. So we already are getting people from multiple continents. And Ron, I don't know about you, but for me, one of my favorite parts about working in online education is that we do see people from all around the world, excited to learn something new.
Definitely, definitely. I love this. And by the way, I used to live a few months in Monterrey, Mexico, so I have a special affinity for
Oh,
this
it's a
place. Yeah.
good
So,
job that I called that out then.
yeah.
But yeah, so
Yeah,
Malaysia,
thank everybody for
Chicago,
for joining from all over. That's super exciting.
Dhaka, Bangladesh, Florida, San Juan, Washington State, Dallas, Texas, New York. All right, so people from all over. Now, I want to make good use of your time. So it's 11:02 a.m. for me in the East Coast United States. Ron, what time is it for
Yeah,
you?
I'm based in Tel Aviv, Israel. It's 6 p.m. around here.
All right. Well, I think we've had enough time for those last minute stragglers to join. Now, I will say in advance, you can ask questions during the webinar. I will be writing them down. There's going to be a Q&A at the end. We're not really going to be answering those much throughout. But there's one question I don't want you to ask, because I'm going to give you the answer right now. There will be a replay to this webinar. There will be a replay to this webinar. There will be a replay to this webinar. Now, I need your help in the chat. If you see someone ask, will there be a replay? Could you just tell them yes? There will be a replay. You'll get it automatically. Now let's dive in and let's get started, Ron.
I can see it was a painful issue for you.
Once upon a time.
Yeah. All right. Are you ready to get started?
Yeah,
Are
let's
you
do this.
ready? All right. So thank you everybody for joining us. I think we're gonna have it's usually like a 1 hour workshop where I'll cover a lot of good stuff about Webflow. As I said, I'm super passionate about this. At the end, I'll tell you about the program that I have teaching Webflow, and we're going to have a special promotion because you're here with us. But with that said, let's jump in. I'm going to share my screen because I want to show you obviously what I'm talking about. So let me start sharing my screen. Does it work okay? Cameron, can you
Yeah,
see?
it looks
Can you
good,
see
but
my
it's
camera?
not full screen yet. But
Yeah.
okay, now
full,
perfect.
full screening it right now. All right. So we call this presentation how to build a 20K website in 7 hours, which I know sounds super extreme to some people. So I want to give a context to what I mean by that. So here you can see a website. This is actually one of the recent website that I built for a client called Pretentex. They're startups in the electronics industry. And I've built this website for them. It's a pretty cool website with, I would say, cool animations and non-standard layout and all kinds of things that you couldn't do with a template. And we worked a bunch on this website. It was a really, really cool project. Initially, I priced it at 20K, but actually we had like phase 2 and 3 where eventually it came up to 50K. Now, here's the real cool thing about this. So everything that you saw right now on this website, here, this is a screenshot from my time tracking app, which is Timely. I really love this. So what you can see here is that after tracking my time, the time that I spent building this website with Webflow, so taking it from my design idea in Sketch and all the animation and assets, and turning this into a real live, fully functional, fully responsive hosted website took 6.5 hours. Now, you can also see, by the way, that I've worked on the project in total 125 hours. So it's not like I made 20K in 6 hours, but the actual full value of developing this website was done in only 6 hours. And that's mind blowing, at least to me, as somebody who's been building websites for years. And either it took me months by, communicating with other developers, outsourcing, paying them thousands of dollars for them to actually develop my work, or struggling to try to customize, templates. And so for me to be able to do this myself in 6 hours is totally a game changer. This is why I'm so passionate about this, and this is what we're going to be talking today. So again, I do respect your time, so I'll tell you who I think can benefit most from this presentation. So if you're a freelance designer in general and you want to bring more value to your clients, this is going to be highly, highly important stuff for you. If you're already doing websites, but you're using templated platforms like Wix and all that kind of stuff, and you're dependent on developers, if you want to do something custom and you want to move away from that to doing kind of like more high level premium kind of design work, then this is going to be perfect for you. And in general, if you're running a freelance business as a designer and you want to make your business more profitable because you're not going to spend money on developers and you're going to be able to work way faster than you are right now, then I think this is going to be super valuable for you. Also, if you're a designer currently working in an agency or a startup or something like this, and you want to build yourself a valuable skill that you can do from anywhere, I think this is also going to be perfect. And this will definitely give you an edge as a designer in the marketplace. And I'll touch upon this a little bit later on. Now, I want to also state who is this not for, because I sometimes have confusion. Now, if you are not a designer, then this is not about this is not going to help you, because we're not going to actually be talking about how to design websites. Okay. My assumptions is you know how to design website, and now we're going to talk about how to turn that vision, that design that you have in your mind, into a fully functional, well-developed website. All right. So we're talking about the development phase of things as a designer. So we're not going to talk about design. If you have no clue how to design, or if you don't have a design that you're trying to turn into a real fully functional website, it's probably not going to be super useful for you. So if that's the case, I don't want to waste your time. Now, let me give a little bit of intro about myself. I said it in a few words before, but I want to give a little bit of context, because I'm sure that some of you don't know, like, who is this Ron person? So basically, I've spent the last 17, 18 years as a freelance designer, some of it while I was working in agencies, but the last 6 years as a full-time freelancer. And I kind of, in the last year that I was full-time freelancer, 2018, I made over $300,000. And I also have a YouTube channel for the past 4 or 5 years where I share daily kind of my journey as a designer. And I've actually shared, my earnings year after year as they were increasing. And we're going to talk about how that happened and how Webflow was really, really influential about that. So at the end of 2018, I started Flux Academy, where we teach designers Webflow and other things, web design related. We already helped over 2,000 students. And yeah, and I was, fortunate enough to work on some projects that were featured in all these kind of fancy tech publications. Besides that, I'm also a family man. I got 2 kids and a beautiful wife. The reason that I'm saying this is because a lot of, you know, the people who are talking about, how to succeed as a designer, it's usually about working harder and working lots of hours and working weekend. And that was part of the burnout that I was a part of. So I really care about having a balanced life as a designer. I think that really matters, and why these things are so important to me. I mean, the tools that we're going to talk about are a way for me to achieve that. So it's important for me to say this. So I'll tell you kind of the story of, how I came to know Webflow, why this is so meaningful to me, and how this has impacted me. So back in 2012, this is me in my last kind of agency work. And as I said, I started in advertising agency and branding agencies, and I was working on some really cool projects, but I was really burning out. As I said, working multiple times a week, after past midnight, and just like burned out from all this agency work, and I wanted to step on my own and have, the freedom to support myself. Don't want to report to a boss or anything like that. So I left that job and I was independent. That was true, but I was also kind of stuck and frustrated because, as I've mentioned earlier, I was working on a lot of web projects. And whenever I try to do something that's a little bit more unique, premium, and custom to really, solve the problems of my clients, I was stuck at having to hire a developer to work with. And that was really frustrated, especially in 2013. You had to really communicate, oh, put this 10 pixels from here and create these specs and work with these Zeppelin apps to really explain the developer, what you want to do with this website. Oh, I want, when you hover here, make the transition, make this change of color, make this. So all of this communication was, first of all, very, very frustrating, but also very time consuming and also not very profitable. So I was kind of stuck. And then in 2014, I had this huge discovery. So here's basically what happened. So I was working with two friends on setting up this event. Now I know this is in Hebrew. As I said, I'm based in Tel Aviv, Israel, so you might not be able to read this. Also, we write from right to left, so it might look upside down or whatever. So we were trying to do event for designers, and we're trying to build this landing page to tell people what's going to be in the event and basically sell tickets to the event. Now it looks really, really simple. This one page basically took us almost a week to develop, from the time that I finished the design to explaining the developer, well, this is how it should look. This is how it should react, when the screen is smaller on, mobile devices. This is how it needs to break. And really took us a week to develop this. And then at this point, I found out Webflow and I gave it a try. So here's the actual email. Again, I know that you can't read this, but note the subject line, which is OMG. And basically what I wrote here is like, look, guys, I just gave this new tool a try. And what we did last week, I've built in an hour and a half. And that's like mind blowing. And I was basically sending this to the developer to say, can you please check the code to see that this is legit and not one of these things where, then it's not going to work, the code breaks, whatever, because the developers always complain, but it's not clean code, the code sucks or something like that. So I had no clue. I was like, can you check this out? And this was a game changer. The developer fell in love with it. I fell in love with it. This made our process 10 times faster. And this was really a game changer. So now I'm able to build, this is another website that I did last year for a company called W. It's another 10K project that also was built in like 6 or 7 hours. And as you can see, again, it's not a template. It's not something that you could do on, a WordPress template or Wix or something like that. So this is another one that I did. This one took less than an hour, I think, to do. There is a nice 3D animation in the background, but the actual website took about an hour to lay out and do. So this really enabled me to really transform my business. So I went from doing, $35,000 a year to over 200,000 in a very short span of time, in like 3 or 4 years. And I went from doing 12-hour workdays without balance, working in an agency, to having like a completely different lifestyle where I'm stress-free. I don't have to work weekends. I can spend the time with my family. And it gave me actually the freedom from having to depend on developers and being super frustrated to, I became a freelancer because I was enchanted with the word free, right? Freedom. We want to own our word. We want to take control of things. And this actually gave me the freedom to actually being able to execute the things that I wanted to execute without having to, depend on other people. Now, by the way, this is not just for me. I just want to share some insights from, some of my students. So Paul said, this particular project has already been completed and I paid a developer $1,200 to code it for me. Then I set up a new Webflow project and I finished building the website in 3 hours. 3 hours. It was at this point I realized I wasn't going back. So this is things that this happens over and over again, where people get this insight. Oh my God, before I had to pay so much money, now I can do it myself so fast. I don't have to wait to anybody. So basically, Emil told me the fact that I can now develop websites without having to write a single line of code is amazing to me. I already doubled my hourly rate and I can see the difference in my clients' reaction to my work and my professionalism. So this is totally, it's not me. I'm not there alone, right? So I want to share a little bit about what is Webflow, how is it different from other things that you may have heard about in the past or experimented with. So the way I see Webflow, I don't consider it a website builder, right? So you have these tools like Wix, like Squarespace, which are basically website builders, right? You have these elements, you drag them on the canvas, you customize them a little bit. Now, Webflow, initially, you might think that it feels the same, right? You have elements, you throw them in the canvas and you design them, but it's completely different. Basically, what they did is they gave you a user interface for code. You're literally coding, right? So you're not throwing in some ready-made gallery component. You're actually throwing in like a div, which is an HTML component. And then on the right side, you can see here, it kind of looks like a design software, but basically those are all the properties of CSS that you can then do. Now, you don't really have to know anything about HTML or CSS. You just do this visually. And that's why it's so powerful, because when you have components like in Wix or Squarespace, you literally just can't change the options that they give you to change, right? It's already ready made. They did an abstraction for you, but here you can edit the real thing yourself. And so it's so much more powerful, and it allows you such a higher level of, customization, all the animation, transition, everything that you want to do, you can do it yourself in just the way that you imagined it. Now, this enables you to basically build any type of website, right? So for your portfolio, website for business, marketing website, blogs, e-commerce. Now, I do want to mention some people are getting confused when I say any type of website. They think Google is a website or Airbnb is a website. So I just want to clarify, Airbnb and Google are apps, right? They happen to work in the browser, but they are actually applications. So Webflow is, at this point, it's not for designing applications, it's for designing websites. But when it comes to website, it's basically any type of website that you want. By the way, you can also, and I did this in the past, you can design the front end of applications and then export the code and give it to a developer, but that's something a little bit different. And it's we're not going to cover this right now, but it's also possible, right? So, these are some of the website that my students did, and you can see that you can really do versatile things in it, that you're not limited by some kind of a template or something like this. Now, here's something that I'm super, super excited about. And this is from a Wow 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 Awards. If you're a designer, you're probably pretty much familiar with this website. It's kind of like the biggest web design awards website. And the website that you're seeing here is from an agency in Chicago called Hiko. I don't know. We have some people from Chicago, right? They're an agency that I really love, and they won multiple awards on their websites, and all of their websites were built with Webflow without the help of a developer. So for me, this is really a game changer. When you as a designer can build award-winning websites with all the fancy interactions, animation, customization, all that type of stuff, without having to have a full-on development team that implements your ideas, I think this is kind of a new level that we can reach as designers. And to me, that's amazing. Now, again, some people would say, yeah, well, WordPress have these builders, right? Elementor and that kind of stuff. And in Wix, like what's the actual difference? So I think sometimes I like to, well, there's a whole conversation about comparing this to WordPress, but what I like about Webflow is that it's a full-on ecosystem, right? So it's one thing is the designer, which lets you design the website yourself, which is super powerful. We've been talking about this so far, but there's also the CMS. CMS stands for Content Management System, which is how your clients are going to edit and maintain their website. And as you can see in the video that I'm showing right now, it's completely visual. Whereas in other places like WordPress, they have to go through kind of this really 90s interface with tables and stuff like that to maintain their website. This is like fully state-of-the-art CMS where your clients can actually do this and not suffer. So your clients are happier, you're giving them better, service as a designer. The website is hosted and it's fully secured. And so there's all these added elements when you're working with Webflow, which makes this completely, again, a game changer and a way better solution. Now, here's one of the things that really, really excites me about Webflow. And why I say this will give you an advantage in the marketplace. So this is a screenshot I did from Google Trends. I think it was like 2 months ago. But what you can see here is, and Webflow, by the way, I think they exist, I don't know, maybe 7 years. What you see here is kind of the beginning of, what startups call the hockey stick, where something starts to trend up really, really fast. And I think during the last year or last 2 years, Webflow has been trending up and picking up speed very, very, very fast. So I've been using Webflow for maybe 5, 6 years now, but it's in the last 2 years where the marketplace has actually accepted the fact that this is just an amazing, amazing solution, and more companies are adopting this. And the need for Webflow designers is on the rise. And there are so many, people hiring Webflow designers, and more projects are done with Webflow. So this is where I think there's going to be if you look at this graph 2 years from now, or if you look at the amount of designers that can use Webflow proficiently in 2 years, in 5 years, in 10 years, my prediction is that in 10 years, it's going to be just like, whatever, everybody knows to use Photoshop or Sketch or something like this. It's going to be ubiquitous, that if you're a designer, you can implement your designs. I mean, what does it mean? I mean, think about this. I think 7 years ago or something like that, it wasn't obvious that you're going to create prototypes, right? We would just show screens. Now it's obvious, if you're a designer, you're going to show me a prototype in Sketch or whatever it is, and it's going to somewhat shows me, if you click here, this moves into this page. I think the same thing is going to happen with the actual development of website. It's going to be so obvious that if you're a designer, if you can design it, then you can also implement this. And this is why I think we're in a crucial point in time, where if you learn this right now, this gives you a huge competitive advantage, where probably in 2, 3, 4, 5 years, it's going to be obvious and everybody's going to learn that. It's still going to be super valuable, which is why people are going to learn that. But probably the let's say arbitrage of value that you can charge for the fact that you can do these superpowers that most people don't have is going to be lower than what it is right now. All right. So basically, this is my from my pitch for Webflow. Now I want to dive into kind of like three secrets that basically they're insights from that I learned that really helped me to kind of reduce the time and become more more efficient and profitable as a web designer. And Webflow has a key aspect in them. So the first one is, I want to talk about how you can recreate award-winning websites in about 2 minutes. And this is crazy, right? So I want to start with a story. So when I've mentioned earlier that one of my first jobs, I was working in an advertising agency, and one of our clients was this cinema, like the movie company that imports the movies to Israel. And one of my jobs as a designer there is I would get these huge PSD files from Hollywood, and I would have to translate the movie posters to Hebrew and, do the same text effects and stuff like that. Now, for me, back in the day, I was a junior designer, and I would get these, like, imagine this comes from the best movie studios in Hollywood, a PSD that's like 2 GB size, with the most professional people in the world have worked on this. And I click on the PSD and I start seeing what goes on in the layers, and just seeing how these genius people work taught me so much, because by seeing how they implemented, I knew all the functions of Photoshop, but I didn't know how to use them creatively to achieve these amazing results. So by seeing how the inside works and how professional people are using the tool, that helped me to tremendously grow and fast forward my learning. Now, why am I telling you this story, and how's that got to do with Webflow? So Webflow have this really, let me see, have this really, really cool thing called the showcase, where you can actually see the website that other people, including, I don't know if you saw at the top, like the Hiko website, including the award-winning website that we've mentioned. And they also have a section that's called clonable. And these projects, you can actually open them up inside Webflow and see what they did. So this is one of my favorite website that was built with Webflow. It's the Epicurrence website. And so this website, which again has really, really cool interactions, really cool layout, really cool things going on here, you can dive through this website. You can see the exact structure of this website. You can see how they style it. You can see how they structured it. You can see how they set up the whole interactions. You can really see exactly how they're working from it. Now, as I said, it's clonable. So you can literally clone this, or you can copy and paste everything that you see on this website to your project. Now, while some of that is useful, I'm not excited about the fact that you can copy and paste this. I'm super, super excited about the fact that you can see how the people at the top of the industry build really, really cool stuff. And you don't just get to see the end result of the website. You can see exactly how they structure this, and you can learn so much about how to achieve these same effects and interactions yourself. Okay, so again, imagine having kind of an x-ray into exactly how they've built this, how they structure this, so that you know how to either do something like this or take these ideas and apply them to your own creative ideas and design. So this is something that I think, again, is game changer, and you can't see this in any other platform, right? And the insight here is that, again, you can reach really amazing results super, super fast if you're going to stand on the shoulders of giants. Okay, so having the access to see how the best people in the industry work is going to make your learning so much fast. So that was the first part. Second point I want to talk about: process is more important than tools. Okay, so when I got started back in my high school days, with Photoshop number 5, I would watch all the tutorials and I would learn exactly, as I said, how each feature would work. But still, when I was designing websites or logos for my early on clients, I couldn't charge, people wouldn't pay me more than $500 for a website. And obviously that was not where I wanted to be. And then I got a job in an advertising in the branding agency. And that was so weird because I kept doing the same level of work, right? I didn't become better because I worked in the agency, but they were selling the same work that I did to clients in $100,000. So I was like, how can it be that I use the same tools? My knowledge is, is the same, and they can sell my work for $100,000. And when I realized this when my creative director took me to the client meeting, and I saw everything that goes on beyond just using the tool. So the whole process, right? How they learn about the client, how they're selling the project to the client, how they're convincing them that what we did for them is the right thing. So I understood the process itself is actually, the tool without the process is actually meaningless, because you can't do anything with with the result if you don't know how to have the process for it. Okay, so basically the way that I see the process right now, okay, as a web designer, this is how the process looks like for me. So first, when I'm introducing, and I'm talking about the process in relation to Webflow. So when I meet the client, first I need to sell them on the idea that Webflow is the right tool for them. Okay. Because if I'm not going to do this, then I might do an amazing design, but they're actually at the end either going to, have to outsource this to a developer, or they're going to tell me, oh, but you have to use WordPress or something else. And then I'm stuck, right? I can't implement what I want, or it's not profitable for me. So it starts at the beginning. It start with the early conversation about, is this a good solution for you? And then the next thing is, now because I know how this tool works, I can design with development in mind, because I know already how I'm going to structure these things. So first of all, I'm a better designer because I understand the platform that I'm designing for. But then again, my process is also very much faster. When I was designing and having to outsource to a developer, I would have to design the desktop, design the tablet, design the mobile response, just because I needed to communicate all these different changes to the developer. Now, I can just design the desktop, show it to the client, get approval, and implement the whole all of the responsive breakpoints myself without having to design them, because I know how to break them down in Webflow myself. So my design process is actually faster as well. So the third part is obviously developing the website and doing it fast and effectively, and responsively. Now, the thing here is, because you're developing, there's actually an impact on how well you're doing this, right? You can build let's take Photoshop or something like this as a reference. You can create a file, you can achieve the design you want with 1000 layers, and that they're not named. And then if you'll have to open this file again a month later, you'll not be able to understand anything that goes on there. Or you can be really efficient and structured about how you work, so that if you'll need to go back and make changes, you'll be efficient about this. Now, this happens, I think, 10 times. This is 10 times more important when you're developing something rather than when you're designing them, because when you're developing things, all things are connected, right? There's styles. If you change one style, it affects other styles. So you need to know how to have a process about how to develop these things effectively. And then the last part of the process is actually making a well handoff, because what would happen earlier in my career, I would, send the designs or the website to my clients, and then we would start with the iterations, and you forgot to do this, and how about you connect the analytics for me, or this and that. And just having all these rounds of discussions after I thought the project was over made things way, way, way less profitable for me. So having a full-on process for how to do handoffs for websites, from how to take it live, how to, make sure that they know how to update their own website. So now I have a full-on process for how to do this with Webflow, and it completely made my business way more profitable. The last thing I want to talk about is how to make your clients fall in love with Webflow, because this is something that maybe I struggled with this early on, and I know a lot of other people have this concern that, oh, but Webflow looks so good for me, but no way my clients are going to do this. They won't pay for this, or they heard everybody's using Webflow, so everybody's using WordPress, so we want to use WordPress as well. So this is really crucial to your success. So I want to share basically how I sell this. Note, what I'm going to talking about right now is basically sales. So if you take attention, this will help you sell anything better. But I'll do a water break for a second. All right. So here's where a lot of designers get this wrong, and I know I had this myself. Designers assume that if they'll show the client a good idea, and tell me in the comments if you had this happen before, designers think that if I'll just show them a good idea, they'll recognize a good idea. But the truth is, we need to sell our ideas, right? Even if it's a really good idea, the clients don't always know it's a good idea. We need to sell it. So here's basically how selling works. The first thing is you need to really, really familiarize yourself with the ins and outs of Webflow, right? If you want to explain to your clients why this is a better solution, you really need to know what this thing is, right? How much does it cost? What features does it have? Can you do this? Can you do that? Because they might have questions, and you can't really communicate to them or explain to them if you're not really sure actually what it is that you're selling. So the first step is actually to, know what you're talking about. Okay. The second thing is use it for yourself, and that's actually sell it to yourself. Like, are you actually sold on Webflow? Do you have your own website built with Webflow? And this is something that, once you do, you really know how this feels. And if you're sold on it, it's way easier to sell it to other people, right? So, and again, as I said, this is sales in general, not just having to do with Webflow. But if somebody comes to you something and they're not buying the thing themselves, it's very fishy, right? But if you're sold to it, and if I would come to you and I said, look, I use this for myself, and I do use this for myself, right? I use this for, my personal website. I use this for Flux Academy. I use this for every website that I ever built. So I know how good this is, right? So then your sale or your communication is way, way more convincing, because, you bought it yourself. So it's not like you're trying to bullshit them. The next step is to really trying to understand what they need and what their concerns are, right? Sometimes they need, to build Airbnb, as we've mentioned earlier, and maybe this is not the best solution for them. But a lot of times they might have just concerns like, hey, but what happens if this, or this sounds like this won't work, or I'm afraid I won't be able to migrate. A lot of times they just have a lot of, concerns about it. Now, if you took step number one and you really know the ins and outs, then you can actually just educate them and tell them, look, here's how this works here, and here's your alternative. This is what happened. This is what would happen if you would use another platform, or do it with custom development. And this is how this would work if we'll use it with Webflow. So again, this is not some kind of a pushy sales. It's more like you're trying to understand what their concerns are, and you're trying to help them understand if this is the best solution for them. But if it is a good solution for them, which for 98% of the businesses that I work with, it's a perfect solution, and you're convinced about this, then, it works, right? And then again, instead of trying to pitch it to them, you can just show it to them. And to me, I found that this is so powerful. Just opening up my website, on my laptop, and showing them how fast it is to edit, how fast it is to publish changes, how fast it is, to maintain this. This is just usually mind blowing to them, especially if they used to work on WordPress in the past and they suffered like most of the people on the internet have suffered. So this is basically how selling works. So I want to sum up basically the three things that we covered so far. So first, you can create amazing work if you'll try to learn from the industry best people. If you have access to see how they work, you'll be able to work much, much faster and, be way more creative. You need to create good processes to make sure that your work is efficient or profitable. Otherwise, tools are not going to help you do this. You need to have a process for how to use the tool, and you need to learn how to sell your process. Otherwise, the fact that you have a process is not going to basically help you. Now, if I can have you take away one thing from this presentation for real, is this: if you learn how to build your own website instead of being dependent on a template or a developer, this will give you an unbelievable edge. And yeah, this is really what I want you to believe. So I'll share some stories with people that did happen to them. So this is from Tara. She said, the ability to offer design and development services is a huge win for my business. My clients absolutely love it, and the more time I spend with Webflow, the less I want to work with another platform. It's amazing, and I continually impressed with each update. As a designer, ability to have control over each aspect of the design at every breakpoint without having to wait and pay for someone else to make is a game changer. And she's now also a six-figure designer building amazing websites for her clients. Kevin says, as a designer and entrepreneur, I tried different solutions for helping my clients with well-designed and smart websites. Webflow has been a game changer, even if a learning process is necessary. So at this point, I hope that you're convinced that, as I've mentioned, that this would give you an unbelievable edge if you will be able to build your own website. So you can go at it alone. Basically, those are your options. And this is what I did. And it took me basically 6 years to get to where I am today. Or, which is what I'm super excited about, we can try to help you to shortcut your way into mastery. So this is we're going to make the transition to share with you and talk about the Webflow Masterclass, which is our program for helping you master Webflow super, super fast. Now, this is the new Webflow Masterclass because, as I've mentioned, I originally published this program at the end of 2018. And of course, the software has been updated, but more than it, we've had over 2,000 people in the program. And we've learned so much with what people struggle and what people really need to succeed that we have completely revamped the program and relaunched it a couple of months ago. So in March, we launched a completely new version of it that's way, way better. And I want to take a few minutes to share what's so cool about it. So first of all, you may have heard of Chris Do. He runs The Future, and he checked out our program and said, this is a great course by Segall about how he uses Webflow to build pixel perfect website in minutes, super clean code, productivity booster. I actually I don't know if you know The Future, but I actually introduced them to Webflow, and now they also build their own website for The Future with Webflow. So this has been successful. We've also had a lot of other students, like David said, was building a one-pager in 2 hours, never thought of build something so good, so fast. Webflow Masterclass is pure magic. So people are really excited about this. So let me actually show you how this looks inside. Let me stop this presentation and open up this. All right. So this is here we are in Teachable, and this is how basically the course is structured. So we're starting the course with the fundamentals. So we don't assume you know anything that's got to do with, either never touched Webflow in your life or don't understand HTML, CSS. You don't need to know code. You don't need to know anything. We're covering the fundamentals. And as you can see, this is really, really comprehensive. And we're not only just talking about this, we've actually created a lot of exercises and project files for you to actually work through. So you have actual things that you actually do and you work through websites through Webflow to understand the main core concepts. And actually, at the end of the day, also creating these kind of cool parallax effects. And so really, really learning how to create all these cool things. Now, at the end of this, you'll have kind of a this is called like the final project, where you'll be creating kind of an article page that you'll have for a portfolio piece. So it's really, really, really cool. After we go through this, and you're doing all these challenges, we're talking about how to make them dynamic. So everything from e-commerce to CMS, doing forms and integrations. We have a whole module about how to do the animation and interaction. So really, really cool stuff, again, with some files for you to work from to really understand the concepts. And then we have some really advanced stuff, advanced use cases, how to copy and paste some custom code to create a really cool effect, how to create multiple language websites, working with Shopify, all that really kind of stuff. Then we're moving into talking actually about the process. So remember how I said that the actual process is so important. So really how to get started, how to QA, how to work with a style guide, all of these things then, and we're giving you all these style guides and all these proprietary stuff here that you can use to make your own process better. We're going to talk to you about how to work with your clients, how to sell them on Webflow, what to do if they don't buy, how to train them for the CMS, how to price the project. So this is really, really comprehensive. Basically, the program is 12 hours of video. Then we have probably another 10 hours of you actually seeing me build live the client website that I showed you before, the W website. So exactly how I build this in, I think, 7 or 9 hours, you can actually see me do this. So this is actually how the program looks like. And just to give you a little bit of context, so this is from a workshop I did in Kiev last year. It was a 3-day workshop covering what I teach in this program. And this workshop, the 3-day workshop, cost $2,500 to attend. So obviously, doing this on your own term, on your own time, through Teachable, makes this way, way, way more affordable. But yeah, but this is basically what you're getting. So you're also getting access to our private community, which is both on Facebook and on Slack, where you can network and ask questions together with other 2,000 other designers that are, already Webflow masters, and you can brainstorm with them. We're sharing projects and gigs. We're doing collaboration. So everybody that, because everybody's doing Webflow projects and a lot of people can't do all the projects themselves, that are sharing them in the group. So it's always great to find collaboration. Here's one example of a website, these watch websites that 2 students in the group collaborated on. So you can see here, Jess wrote, "Hey, Ron, we've done our first collaboration with Brad. So far, amazing. Proud of the final result, done in 1 week. We launched the finished website on Monday." So they work together on different time zones to give them more efficiency. So really, really cool stuff happening there. We're doing live workshops, with other tools that can integrate with Webflow. So there was one about Member Stack, which is how to create membership website. People are just asking feedback when they want feedback on their portfolio or their new websites. And one other super cool thing that we're doing, we have the Flux Pro, which is basically every month giving you a web design challenge, just for you to practice your skills and practice Webflow. So this is not just learning, you actually do this. And every month we pick a winner, we send them the AirPods Pro. This really kind of motivates the students to work hard and create amazing stuff. And you can see here, so this is, we actually had an anti-racism challenge before everything that goes on in the US right now. And this was the winner. Enrico designed and built this in just a couple of days, and really, really cool work. And he won the the AirPods Pro for that month, but we do have this every month, and it's a really, really cool thing that we do for our community. Now, besides that, we also have actual support. And this is an email also I got a couple of months ago just about how good the support was. So we got this email from a student. Just wanted to say that Bob is our support person for Webflow, is very, very helpful with my questions, and his response time is really short. Basically, he said here, there's so much stuff, when you're trying to develop your own projects, so easily to drown in the Webflow ocean. I want to congratulate you on deciding to have such top level customer help desk. This is important just as much as the product itself, if not more. So this is also something that we're really, really proud about. Now, one more thing that we're doing, when you complete the challenge to build this portfolio piece, if you do this correctly, we'll review it. We'll see if you've built it correctly, efficiently, styled it, did it, everything right. And for the people who do pass this, we send them a certificate. If it's not good enough, we'll tell you, we'll help you get there. And yeah, I know there's typos here because I write very fast and I have typos, but the real certificates, we fixed the typos for the real certificate. All right. So at this point, you might ask, all right, Ron, how much is this? And I think I'm putting the wrong price here. Yeah, I'm putting a payment plan here. But what is, I told you we're doing a really big promo because you're coming here from Teachable Discover. So we're giving you 28% off, which is more than $200 off the price of the course for the next few days. If you go through the link from Teachable, Run 20. One more thing that I want to mention is we do offer 100% money back guarantee the first 30 days. If you're not sure about this, if this is not for you, if it turned out you already knew everything, we're really confident that this is super powerful. So we don't want you to feel uncomfortable or risky or anything. So we do offer money back guaranteed. I'll finish off with.
Oh, Ron, just a heads up. I've actually just clicked a button to make a button go live above the video. So above the video, there should be a button to get the course. So if anyone's interested, you can just click that button right now, and you'll get instant access once the order is successful.
Cool. That's really cool. All right. Thanks, Cameron. Okay, I'll just let you see. I don't know if you can hear the sound. Let me see if you can hear this. Before I took Ron's Webflow masterclass, I was turning down clients all the time because they wanted web design and development. I couldn't offer this, but now I can. And I'm making twice as much money doing so. Thanks, Ron. So basically, I don't know if you could hear this. This is Tom, one of my students, but basically so many designers are just leaving money off the table. You're a great designer. You're not offering web design at the moment, even though you can design a website, just because you're scared of the whole technical aspect of it. So stop leaving money on the table and pick up Webflow. All right. I think we can jump into Q&A now. So let me stop sharing my screen.
All right. We've had some great questions, Ron.
Nice.
So I've written down a few of them, and then we have some more coming into the chat. So someone's asked a pretty advanced question, which is, with Webflow or with other web design things, the code that's actually put out isn't that great. So he says, how is code bloat with Webflow? And is it possible to specify that certain assets only load on mobile or don't load on mobile? And it like lazy loading, does it do that also?
Okay, so there's a few questions here, so I'll try to break it down. As I've mentioned, Webflow is basically a UI for code. So whatever you put in, that's how the code looks like. If you don't know how to build efficiently, you might throw in too many things, unnecessary things, use too many classes or things like that, and your code will get a little bloated. Not as much as bloated as WordPress, which just loads tons of unnecessary stuff, but it really depends on how you structure. So there is no unnecessary things. It's just what you put there and how you use the software. So you actually build the code. And if you do this structurally and accurately, your code is going to be super, super clean. Webflow doesn't add anything besides what you're adding. And by the way, on their website, I don't remember the thing, you can actually go and see, go and, see the code of some projects. You had another question about responsiveness. So one thing about responsiveness is First of all, they automatically create responsive versions of your images. So this is a really, really cool feature where basically if you have like a huge hero image, full cover, high resolution image on desktop and on mobile, there's no sense to load such a huge image. Then it's not going to load that image, and it's actually going to resize it to only the size that is needed on mobile. So that's really, really cool. As for lazy load, lazy load is basically a feature that the website it's not initially loading the whole page, it's just loading a section, and as you scroll it's loading more and more of the page. I think that's possible by adding a little bit of custom code. So it's one thing that we didn't talk about, but everything is customizable with Webflow. So you can add custom code and literally at the end of the day do anything you want. Now, most designers, the reason that they love Webflow is that they don't need to do the custom code. But if you want to get into a little bit more technical or things like that, you can add any custom code and add these features. So I think it's possible by adding custom code.
So I had a good question about the course here.
Yeah.
Ishan in the chat says, is the course more for designers or more for developers?
No, the course is 100% more for designers. While we do have some developers that do this, because again, if you're a front end developers and you're just writing gazillion lines of code, where with Webflow you can do this with 3 clicks, obviously it will make their work easier. But I'm a designer and I created this program for designers with designers in mind. So the assumption here is that you know nothing about development, you know nothing about code. Um, if you do, of course, you'll get the grasp of it faster. But my assumption was most designers don't have context, and this is for them. They know how to design, they have the vision, they know how they want the things to animate, know how they want things to look like, but they are lacking the ability to actually translate that vision into a fully functional website.
So I had a good question coming in here, which is, what are, sorry, that wasn't the question. So they're kind of curious about Webflow as like a company. So if you have like hosting questions or problems, can you turn to Webflow, or is this something that, how does
Yeah.
the company actually work?
So yeah, so Webflow basically serves. This is a little bit confusing for some people, but it basically have two. Uh, I don't know if to call this products, right? So there is the designer, right? And you can use the designer to design your website. And at that point, by the way, you can export the code. And then you'll get a folder with HTML, CSS, images, JavaScript, all of that, and you can take it and host it and do it whatever you want with it, right? So this is let's call this the designer. And then there's the hosting, where the hosting means that you can take your design and with one click push it live and connect it to your own domain, and then also enjoy benefits such as their custom their content management system or e-commerce or whatever it is that you want. So first of all, hosting is not mandatory. Well, I usually use it because it's pretty awesome. Maybe it's not for anyone. It's not a must. That's one thing that you should know. Now, in general, when it comes to Webflow as a company, so I'll just give my context, just because I'm actually friends with the founders. I've been in touch with them for many years, since they were in beta. So as a company, first of all, if you know anything about startups, they've been in Y Combinator, which is kind of like where Airbnb, Dropbox, all these good companies grew up from. So they've been in Y Combinator and they raised a little bit of money, but then they became profitable and they grew their company profitably, which is something that at least me gives me much more confidence in the fact that they're not going to go out of business if they don't raise the next round of funding or something like that. So one thing that is super important to me is I know that they are a profitable company. That being said, after they grew the company profitably for like 7 years, last year I think they raised like $70 million just to start scaling and growing to the next level. So that's about them as a company. They do have support. They do have their own community, by the way, for asking questions and stuff like that. Obviously, if you're hosting with them, you'll get the support. one more thing that is worth mentioning is basically Webflow is built on top of Amazon. So basically, when you're hosting with them, you're hosting with Amazon and taking advantage of all the Amazon infrastructure. If you know what that means in terms of, CDN, content delivery network, means your website loads super fast anywhere in the world. Security, all these type of things are coming in built in, which is, and Amazon has whatever 99.999% availability or uptime, right? If Amazon is not working, Twitter is not working as well. Okay, so let's say it's not very likely. So it's very dependable. Yeah, I think that makes sense. Does that answer the question?
I think so. So someone had a question like, Webflow seems great, but is this useful for e-commerce? So if I have a site where I'm trying to, sell something or sell a product, is Webflow good for that, or is it only good for
Okay.
like directories and all that kind of thing?
Okay. So Webflow launched their e-commerce kind of functionality last year. I don't remember if to say a year ago or something. So they launched it last year, the e-commerce functionality. Now, e-commerce is a very big space, okay? And there's very big players in e-commerce. The biggest one is Shopify. Most people know this. And e-commerce, an e-commerce company can be anything from somebody who's selling, t-shirts to their friends to company sort of like almost like Amazon or Asos, or let's say a company that is huge. And the different problems that e-commerce website have are different based on what they're selling, how big they are, and so forth. So what I would say, and by the way, I just want to say I'm not an e-commerce expert, but what I would say is that for very big e-commerce website, probably Shopify is still better. But for anything small, medium e-commerce, Webflow is probably more ideal. What I think is, if you care about custom design for your e-commerce shop, then Webflow is probably the solution. Now, there's also a way, and there's a lot of people that are talking about this right now, and I'm probably going to add this maybe in the next few weeks, actually, to the masterclass, how to build a design in Webflow and translate it to Shopify, because a lot of people are actually doing this. They're designing the website in Webflow, and then they're turning this into a Shopify template. So this is something that's possible. A lot of people are doing this. Right now, we cover this, we cover this not in depth. We're just showing you here's how you're going to do this, but we're not taking you step by step. But I'll probably add this again. There wasn't too much interest about how to do this, but I think this is a growing thing.
So I did see a question in here from Chris, which is a little bit more of a basic. He said, how do these websites really add value for companies? Websites look very professional, interactive, but when you're talking to a client, how do you talk to them about, how is this website going to, and the new design going to really help them achieve their goals?
Well, that's that's a really broad web design question, because every company has their own needs and goals for the website, right? So for some company, if you're a startup company and you have a digital product, then the goal of your website is to get people to sign up for your product. If you're a lawyer, maybe the goal of the website is just to look credible enough that when people Google you, they understand who you are, what services do you get, and they find your contact information. So it really depends on, as a designer, when you're working with a client to build a website for them, you need to understand what their goals are. And every website has different goals. Some of it might be leads, awareness, sales. There's a lot of goals for a website. With Webflow, because you're not dependent on a template, you can really build a website that is solving the problems that they need to solve to achieve their goals. You're not just taking, oh, here's a business website template, that's generic. Let's put here the about us. This is our product and so forth. You can, do custom design that is really fits to what they need from a website.
Okay, great. Now, I did have a quick request from Sasha in the chat. We're wondering if we could get a link to the W Women's platform that you shared. Some people were interested in that.
Let me see what the link is.
If you want to drop that in here, I can copy and paste it into the chat.
Yeah.
No worries. Take your time.
Yeah.
And while you're looking for that,
I'm sending you the link. By the way, it's been a few months. I haven't taken a look in they might have made some changes to it. No, but I think it looks rather similar to what I showed you. Where's the chat? All right. So it's w.life. I sent you the link, but yeah.
Here, I'll paste that into the chat for everyone to see.
Cool.
Wow, it does look really good. Now, one thing that we saw in the chat was questions about, mobile devices. So, are you able to like convert a Webflow website app into like a mobile app, or is it AMP ready, for
It's
faster
not
loading?
so it's not an app. It's mobile responsiveness. So this is how your website is going to look when it's opened up. When somebody's going to open up a link, let's say your website is w.life. Somebody's going to open that up on their iPhone using Chrome or Safari or something like this. This is the mobile web. This is not a mobile app that you can find in the App Store and download an app. App is something different. And as I've mentioned, this is not a tool for apps. This is a tool for websites.
All right. And it looks we're getting towards the end of our time, but I think we've got one more question we should answer from Simon. Or Simon says, coming as a developer, not a designer, would I have a disadvantage here? What's the prerequisite as a designer to be able to use Webflow well?
There isn't a prerequisite, but as I've mentioned, if the way that you work right now as a developer is that somebody sends you a design file and you break it down and you develop the front end, then great. This is perfect for you. If you don't know how to design and you're like, I'm a developer and I want to get into web design, so I want to know how to design websites, then again, Webflow is a development platform that's visual. So it's perfect for people who don't know how to code. I don't consider it a design tool like Sketch or Figma or something like this. It's a development platform that's visual, which is why I think designers love it.
And all right, I think that's
Okay.
a great question to end on. So what I'd like is if people in the chat could just say thank you to Ram for taking his time
Yeah, it's been
generously
a
to
pleasure.
teach you something interesting. And we've really learned a lot. And so people are saying thank you in the chat. So like Sasha.
Yeah, it's been my pleasure. I love doing these presentations and talk about the stuff I'm excited about.
So to everyone watching this right now, you're going to get an email replay automatically with a link to purchase, and we're going to leave the video up. It won't be live anymore, but you'll be able to watch it for about another hour or so before we take it down. After that, you'll be able to watch it in the email. But there should be the link right above the video to learn more and to get Ron's course if you're interested. And again, I think this is the best price you'll ever find this course at, and it has the 30-day money back guarantee. So thank you everyone for coming, and I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day. All right.
All
Take
right.
care.
Peace
Bye-bye.
out, everybody. Thank you.